The AAWSAP program, later the ATIP program, obviously would not have been possible without the support of you and Robert Bigelow and Jim Lacatski. Yet for the last few years, when you and I have talked, we've all had to bite our tongue a little bit because Dr. Lacatski wasn't out in the open. He wanted to remain private. Now the book is out and we can speak more freely. You have shared some of the history of your interaction with Jim Lacatski. Can you speak a little bit more about what the days were like when that program was first being discussed between you and him?
Well, Bigelow sent me a letter that he had received from the Defense Intelligence Agency. And I wanted to talk to him. So Lacatski couldn't come to my office and I couldn't go to his. So I had him come to my home. And he basically said this. He said, I'm an expert on rockets. I know where they are now, know where they're going to be 50 years from now, know what they'll be years after that. But what I don't understand is all these unidentified flying objects. That's what I want to study. That's how the conversation got started.
Was Dr. Lacatski present for that first meeting or the early meetings with you and Inouye and Stevens to talk about the program?
I met with him alone. And I met with Inouye and Stevens alone also.
This book describes a lot of really weird events and encounters, and there are those who think that maybe we shouldn't be talking about it now just when Congress is looking at UFOs as a serious matter, that it's starting to gain credibility with the media. I understand those criticisms, but if someone had told Congress behind closed doors about upright wolves and creatures and blue orbs, it might be too much. What do you think about that?
I think if you're going to write a book and you believe in what you're writing, you shouldn't write the book about things you don't really believe in. And so you may get some criticism for that, but at least you're telling it the way it is.
You know, the criticisms have also been this wasn't really a UFO study. And of course, you've said it was, but it went so much beyond just UFOs. Do you think that we can ever understand the complexity of the big picture without looking at the weird stuff and only looking at UFOs over military installations?
All I know is this. Had I not spent the $22 million of federal money, we would be in a bad situation because we have studied now. I wanted to find out if these UFOs were just a figment of someone's imagination. And they're not. They're actually occurrences. And I'm so glad I did this.
You have faced some criticism about the weirdness that was uncovered by AAWSAP and ATIP. The AAWSAP program ran into trouble in part because there was pushback once the word got out in the Pentagon. Is the weirdness factor one reason why the money was in effect stolen and the program killed?
It's the main reason the program didn't continue.
Just too much for them to handle or politically unsavory?
Remember what government's about. It hasn't been done before. We're not going to do it now.
Just seems like we're supposed to, we should follow the evidence where it leads and not try to hide stuff now, whether it's politically pragmatic or not. I'd hope you'd agree.
Well, that's why I did what I did.
During AAWSAP and then later ATIP, you and I had a chance to speak privately several times. I remember getting a call from you while you're in the well of the Senate, and you asked about Skinwalker Ranch, whether your staffers should go there and whether they'd be safe. Did you consider sending some of your people to the ranch, and did you ever consider going there yourself?
I considered it, but based on information I got from you and others, I decided not to go.
It would also have drawn attention to the ranch and the program, right? If you went there, you'd have to tell somebody about it.
That's for sure.
AAWSAP versus ATIP. There's a lot of confusion about which acronym is correct, which one is which. And there are those who are trying to sort of muddy the waters to further confuse the public. Can you address those two acronyms? I mean, you were helping to run the country back in that time frame.
I think if we try to break it down into two different segments, we're making a mistake. They should be considered together.
Back then, you were running the country. You were working on Obamacare. You were pretty busy and had a hand in everything, every issue at every table. So I can't imagine that you spent a lot of time reading these documents as they came in. Is that true?
I read what I could read, but there's a limit because otherwise I'd be spending my reading stuff 24 hours a day.
your friend, your lifelong friend and longtime advisor, General Bob Herbert, recently died in a car crash. But you did arrange for me to speak to him before that tragic accident. Was he the guy who was most hands-on for you in dealing with this stuff?
He was my staff person who was involved in this as much as anyone else.
He wanted you to get out of it, didn't he? That's what he told me.
Yeah, wanted me to get away from it, yes.
Because it was politically dangerous, or were there other reasons?
Yes.
Politically dangerous. And you overruled him.
Yes.
I know this probably the loss, his passing really hit you hard, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was such an unnecessary death. He was at his portion, seeing how fast he could go.
You know, I didn't know the difference between AATIP and AAWSAP either until I came to Washington, March 2018, met with you and Dr. Lacatski and got the lowdown. That was the first time I heard it. So I'm not surprised other people are still a little bit confused, but it should be clear by now, I would think.
I hope so.
You know, the confusion about the names has been used by people to now attack Lou Elizondo since this book came out, say he wasn't really involved with the program and AATIP wasn't a UFO study. It seems like people still want to take him down, payback for spilling the beans. Do you think that's accurate?
I think it's very unfair how he's been treated. He's somebody who's hands-on. He worked there in the agency. He was the go-to guy at the agency. For now, people who are Monday morning quarterbacks coming out trying to embarrass him, it's too bad. That's what they're doing. They're embarrassing him. It's wrong.
Over the weekend, your former Senate colleague, Bill Nelson, now head of NASA, made some really provocative comments about UFOs and exotic possibilities, even saying they might be ETs, they might be interdimensionals. And NASA has always been such an opponent of UFOs and didn't want anything to do with it. Are you surprised by his comments? Do you think it's trying to do an about face for NASA and how it approaches the subject?
I think that Bill Nelson was a great senator. He's a really good head of NASA. He's doing what he thinks is right. He's a man of integrity.
Have you had a chance to talk to him about this?
I haven't talked to him about it, no.
Do you still get calls from former Senate colleagues asking, what do you know?
Yes. I'm really kind of guarded because I, first of all, need to find out why they're calling me. And usually it's just they're calling me to see if they can get something that's provocative in nature. We don't need that at this stage.
Now that we know even more about those programs that you sponsored, what they uncovered, is it a matter of time before the actual documents come out? I mean, you still favor releasing everything. You told me one time there's nothing in there that the public should not be able to see.
I think that transparency is the name of the game. Government should not be hiding things. Transparency is what is important. American people can handle whatever facts are. But what they can't handle is trying to hide the facts.
Some of what is in that book is pretty alarming. It's not just UFOs flying around in the sky, which is alarming by itself. The public seems ready to learn about UFOs, disclosure. What about all the other weird stuff? Do you see any risk that some segments of the population might kind of freak out?
Of course, I think there'll be a lot of people who won't accept some of the stuff, the paranormal stuff that you have been dealing with for all these years.
Could there ever be a program like AAWSAP, BASS again? Or it looks like now there's going to be a program to study a narrow band of UFO cases, military encounters. Could there ever be one as broad as what you sponsored again?
Well, I would hope so, but I don't see anything coming tomorrow.
I think I told you a long time ago that this would become an important part of your legacy, and you kind of thought, I don't think it's going to be part of my legacy. Are you surprised now, given how it's taken off and how much positive reaction it's generated for you and the program? Are you?
American people are very interested. I can go here to a restaurant in Vegas and somebody say, "You Harry Reid?" I say, "Yes." They say, "Thanks for doing the work on that." I always say, "Flying saucers."
Well, thanks for supporting it, Senator. I mean, the world has changed so much, and it is part of your legacy. And I'm glad you're more comfortable with it.
George, thank you very much.